Shua, can you hear me?
Yes,
Are you excited?
I'm super excited.
Good to hear. What's the time in New York?
It is 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock? It is 12 p.m. where I am in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
the 14-hour difference.
I like your kippah. I've always said kippahs are a great way to hide the bald spot. So if you've ever
A-
noticed, the older people get, the bigger and bigger their kippahs get.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Just a quick reminder for those who are now joining us. Welcome to Pride in the Living Room, Jewmos edition. So Pride in the Living Room was founded by the Israeli LGBT taskforce Agudah in memory of the 2009 Tel Aviv Gay Center shooting and the Jerusalem Pride Parade stabbing in 2015. And this project was founded to offer a voice and a stage to LGBT Jews from around the world to share their stories. And all of that has led me to this moment where I am able to invite Shua to share your story. Over to you.
My name is Shua Heyward. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in a Chabad ultra Orthodox community. I'm one of six children, and when I was 5 years old, I noticed there was a difference in me than the rest of my siblings. And I always knew that I was different, and I always uh, uh, scratched the surface of my individuality. And throughout the years, it just became more and more apparent of that how different, what's the difference that I am, and and then uh, at the same time, you know, my a first cousin of mine was going through those same paths, and sure enough, we were very close growing up. Our similarities were the bonding point, but our similarities were the breakoff point. So he was going through his own struggles of his sexuality, and so was I, and we never discussed it, but we were going through it at the same time. And he went through the conversion path, and I went just for the discovery of this is who I am, and one day I will either overcome it or live the true identity that I am. And then throughout the years, I always heard feedback from my peers, my friends, my family, that being an openly gay Jew is like unacceptable and invalid, and you'll never make it further than the first year or 2 years, because usually when something is exciting and fresh in your head, you say like I'm gonna be excited and I'm gonna be excited, and then when the excitement is over, you turned your whole life upside down, and then you live in regret. So when I was in 2012, when I was 22, I was at a Shabbos meal with my aunt and uncle in Brooklyn, and they were discussing the elections, which is ironic because we're in that American, uh, the election year, and they once again mentioned the gay uh, topic, and that was the first time I was at that table, and I said to myself, the way that you're talking about gay people, you have no idea that who's sitting in this chair, and you have no idea how deep in the closet I have to be because of the way that you're saying it. Obviously, I didn't say this to my aunt and uncle, but this is what I was thinking. The next day, I was on my way to a wedding in Pittsburgh, and I spent the whole. It's an 8 hour bus ride, and I spent the whole 8 hours texting my peers, my friends, my family, and hearing feedback to say, if I was to come out, how would you react? And lo and behold, to my surprise, 98% of the people who I asked in those 8 hours were supportive. And I'll never forget that, because I could still be me and I could still have my family. And I've been out 5.5 years already now. And I've lost a few friends, but I never lost my family. So for all of you guys out there who are struggling the way that I struggled, always remember that you never know what other people will react, because they love you and they will be there for you. If not your family, definitely your friends. I find that very comforting for me, that even though I had my family and my friends and my brothers and sisters, the only person that was the last person to accept me for me was me. So always know that you have like two things that's going on at the same time. Your friends have to accept you, your family have to accept you, but also you always have to accept yourself. And I just watched a video on YouTube of 4 gay Jews talking about their experiences, and this video was taken 9 years ago, and the theme was "It Gets Better." And me, as a closet gay Jewish man, I watched that video over and over and over again, just to have like a taste of, like, I was living through them, you know, like they're openly gay, how lucky they are to be openly gay. And I watched it recently, and I'm so blessed that 9 years later, I could testify and to say that it does get better. And wedding, you know, and the cool part is that I mentioned that I grew up in a ultra-Orthodox community in Crown Heights and Chabad and all that stuff. And I'm still welcome among my friends and my peers for Shabbos meals and to Minyan and to an Aliyah, to the Torah, you know, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this identity as a gay Jew, but also as a member of a shul that I grew up in, and a community that I grew up in, and friends that I knew all my life.
I have some questions, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Well, first of all, thank you, Shua, for giving us the abridged version of your life story. I think there's a lot of people who will watch this video and they'll identify with your words, whether it's the struggles in being gay in an ultra-Orthodox community, or, you know, having to reconcile all of the pieces of your identity. I think there's something really beautiful you said. You said, I can still be me and still have my family. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel like they have to make a choice, that the only possible outcome is one or the other. And I think it's really powerful to say, I can still be me and still have my family. So thank you for sharing those words.
Just to add, you know, I remember one story. It was Pesach, and this was after my cousin came out, and he came out 2 years before me, and we were watching Oprah, and it was my brother, 2 of my brothers, and 2 of my sister-in-laws in my mother's basement in her house, and we're watching Oprah, and the conversation changed to, oh, you know your cousin's gay, and one of my sister-in-laws says, you can't be gay, I have so many cute girls for you. And my mother popped up and said, would you love him any less? So this was in 2012, and I came out in 2014. So for 2 years, I always felt that no matter what, I have my mother. And me and my mother and I, we have such a tight bond, and the whole coming out story gave me the courage to come out, because I know that I'll never lose my mother, and my mother's love and my mother's, you know, affection towards me. And I'm so grateful, because that's all what I needed. And that as well as my best friend, my best friend, I met in Chicago with him, and even though he's really religious and he was taught that homosexuality is like not in the cards, he still calls me and we still have a relationship, and he puts the actions secondary to the relationship that he has with me. And yes, homosexuality is not like acceptable on the umbrella of orthodoxy, but when someone loves you the way that you're supposed to be loved, they will accept you for you. And don't think that you are unlovable just because the people that you expect to love you don't. It's not on you. It's their blockage that they have to work through.
Can you take us all the way back to the beginning? There are some people watching this who maybe are Jewish, maybe are not Jewish, who might not have a full understanding of what it's like to grow up in the ultra-Orthodox community. So can you give us a quick rundown of that experience?
I mean, in my point of view, in my experience, like I was always the ultra Orthodox community has it's more like a cookie cutter type of environment. Like we all go to the same synagogue, we all go to the same schools, and we all eat the same, we all pray the same, and it's really cookie cutter type of environment. And being gay and growing up gay, it's you always feel yourself that you're different, but you never vocalize it because you never want to be, scolded at or teased. Even though I was teased in third grade about being gay, being feminine, but it wasn't an issue because I always like put that secondary, just so I could get through to the next year, to the next obstacle. I was bullied as a kid, so like my bulliness took center stage and my sexuality was secondary. But growing up, like I had two older brothers, so I did everything that my brothers did, even though I tried my hardest to be, my own person.
Do you remember the first time the concept of being gay entered your sphere?
I remember when I was 6. I remember looking at classmates and looking at classmates, I would say, differently, the way that you're supposed to, or way that you thought you're supposed to. Yeah, I remember first grade, second grade, in between those 2 years. Third grade is when I start to really, so when I was 8, between 6 and 8, I would say.
And when did you start to have the vocabulary to describe what was happening? Hello, I think we've lost you. Shua, are you with us? We're back. I think what happened? You got so emotional that you had to leave, or?
I got so emotional that my phone froze and shut off. Typical.
Your phone's charging now?
Yeah, it's in the charger. Yeah.
So where were we?
Just so it doesn't happen again.
I think I was asking you, so you've spoken about when you first had the attraction to other men, and when was the vocabulary of gayness, when did you know that?
When I was in eighth grade. I watched the 1990 in the 90s. There was a sitcom, Saved by the Bell, and the way that two of the characters had that relationship, I had that relationship with, not physical relationship, but that imagined in my head with one of my classmates, and I caused such a disruption in school because we're all taught that it's a man and a woman, and here I come to school on like a day in December, November, and I'm running around school, saying things that you saw on TV, and you're talking about your fellow classmate. Didn't go over too well.
What sort of things were you saying?
So like on the TV show, the male character, takes the female character on like to a movie and to a date, to dinner, it was filmed in California, so like to a plateau looking under the like over the sunset, and that was my vision. But my surprise, my vision wasn't towards a female like the character, but it was actually towards my classmate who was a man. And I found that till today, that classmate of mine, we're still friends till today, and we laugh about it even now, and 22 years later we still laugh about it.
Wow. Um, yeah, it's always interesting when young gay people are discovering themselves, discovering what these urges and what their identity means. And it's often directed to maybe another classmate or whatever it is. I'm always interested to know what it's like from their perspective, because a lot of us are always so internalized in our own brains. And yeah, it's good to hear that you're still friends.
Yeah. I mean, he went down allegedly the same path as myself, and a couple of members in my community that went down, the same path. But he's still living his life, and no news on that end. But it wasn't so off base, and my gaydar was on point back then as well.
It's always interesting to me when people talk about living a double life. So being the nice Jewish boy at home and at family reunions, and then on the weekends, maybe they go off, maybe they have a different name, maybe they curl their payos around their ears, whatever it is, stick a
Yep.
cap on.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
So that is one of my decisions that I made that I never wanted to do. I never wanted to live a double life. Either I turn off my feelings towards my attraction that is my core, or do I embrace my core and embrace who I am. I would never want to get married and then go on social media or social apps and hit up people outside of my marriage, and then or get married and then break my wife's heart and cause another whole dynamic in a marriage and children, and like it had to be one or the other. And like a year or 2 years before I came out, I did go on a date. I went on a date with an Australian girl, and I wasn't religious. I wasn't from enough. I wasn't religious enough for this person. And that was the first and last date that I went with a girl. This was 2 years before I came out. And
Were
on
you
the date, what?
Were you shadrand?
Yeah. Actually, a chosen family member who live in Melbourne, they set it up, and I And I said, okay, no problem. It was like I was 24 or 22. So at 22, between 22 and 24, that's the marriageable age in my community that I grew up in. So I came out I came out when I was 24. So I came out at the end of that typical age that you get married. So I waited and I waited and I waited. It took me time to really say, listen, half of my class is already married. Let me start my life. You know, you guys are living your life. Let me live mine. That's a big factor that people are normally afraid of, because they always worry about, like, well, what if I lose my friends? Your friends will get married. Your friends will start their lives. And you have to remember that you are what you make your life to be. And you cannot live your life worrying about, what if I lose X, Y, and Z? What if I lose this friend? What if I lose that friend? You have to live your life the way that you want to live it. And then people will want to be your friend. And that's what I learned. You have to, I advise you to put yourself first when it comes to stuff like this. Because you live with the consequences and the beauty.
Very well said. I'm just interested.
I have good teachers.
Sorry?
I have good teachers.
So you mentioned that the marriageable age in your community that you grew up in is 22, 24. Um, uh, I'm assuming it would be younger as well.
Yeah. You my mom's siblings, like my first cousins on my mom's side, they get married between 18 and 21. So at 24, now I'm 30, and I am the oldest single first cousin to be single at 30, and I have 31 first cousins. So imagine, I come from a big family, and at 30 years old, I'm still single. But they don't pressure me. They don't say you're an embarrassment. They don't say that you are, you're living in a fantasy world. I go to all the weddings that they make. I'm always invited. I always get a personal invitation. I'm not under my mom's invitation name. It doesn't say, my mom's name and kids and then Shua, So I'm really welcome with my family on both sides. And I'm truly lucky, because they could have been like, listen, you live your life and just don't come, knocking on our door. My relationship with my siblings and with my first cousins and my aunts and uncles they got stronger over the past 5.5 years.
So if someone is still single at, let's say, 24, then is there a sort of an unspoken understanding that they're gay?
No. But in 2020, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but also, if you have the mannerisms of the not talking to girls, always talking to guys, and having mannerisms as a gay person has, then yes. But normally it's not like a red flag. It's just like he just didn't find the right one, and they keep pushing. But if the person does say, I'm gay, it's not just because of age. It's just because he was ready to say, I'm gay.
What does it mean to you to be in a relationship? Why is it important to you to find the right person, settle down, start a family?
As a closeted gay person, or as an openly gay person?
Are the answers different?
Yes.
Please.
So growing up, I have many, I have many first cousins who are older than me, and I always was inspired to have a family like theirs. And the relationship with their spouses was even more beautiful. However, being openly gay, and I have to make my own decisions and bring someone into my world, it's different because majority of my boyfriends were not Jewish. But I always wanted a family. I always wanted a family. But I knew that it would just be different. But I always wanted I always want a family.
So you've spoken. Go ahead.
The difference is that the having a family with a woman is just the typical Orthodox family. Having a family with a man is just so not common in the community that I grew up in.
So you've spoken about having relationships with non-Jewish men. What's that experience like in terms of bringing Judaism into those relationships?
My mother and my father both equally instilled in me the idea of faith and the idea of God and the idea of identity of being a Jewish person. And religion and the I'm losing my thought. They always taught me identity. So identity in a relationship with a non-Jew is always important. And I always look for a partner who is respectful to my upbringing and how I live my life as an individual who's Jewish.
Are you actively involved in gay spaces, queer spaces?
I am actually a founder of a LGBT, not LGBT, but like a gay Jewish WhatsApp group on WhatsApp. I founded it in 2017 on a fluke, by accident, and I added over 70 to 100 people over the past 3 years, and it has 30 members now because people come and go, people move away, people get married, people need a break, and so but now I have 30 members going strong, and I am the most blessed founder because I have so many people who participate on the group on a daily basis, share their day-to-day, and we became a unit. We became a community. We go to parties together, and we always take like a group picture of people who are from the group, like our own picture. Like, this is my group, and it's close to 7 to 10 people in this picture at a party that belong to my group. And it's it's emotional because I always said to my aunt, whose son's gay as well, and I said to her, like, now that I'm openly gay, I want to give back to the community that helped me give me my identity. And I'm doing exactly what I said. I'm giving a platform for gay men to speak their truth, to express themselves on a daily basis, and to not be afraid to say, this is who I am, and I'm with the people who understand my upbringing, but also love me for who I am now, which is also very important.
It's really amazing.
Yeah. I remember when I first came out. When I first came out, there was a Orthodox minyan in the Upper West Side that 40 to 50 people used to come once a month for like 2.5 years, and I was inspired by the person who founded it because he was making such a big difference. And I said to myself, I want to do exactly that. I want to make a difference. Always wanted to make a difference. When I was growing up, I always wanted to, put a pebble in the ocean and just make ripples and just make waves.
Have you been able to assist other ultra-Orthodox people from your community or neighboring ones that are having similar struggles?
I try to give my opinion and my experiences to many members in my community, but sometimes I always give my opinion, but I always say to people, you have to come to your crossroads at your own time. Always remember to always know that you have a support group behind you no matter what, but you need to come to that decision by yourself, because I knew that I never wanted to be outed. I never wanted a message on my phone to be like, I heard you're gay. Is that true? I never wanted that message. So I tried my hardest to own my own coming out story. And I believe other people should own their coming out story as well, because you only have one coming out story, and it should be important. It should be a good experience, not a uncomfortable and rip your family apart experience.
I have one final question, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So I'd like to go all the way back to the very beginning. You being 5 years old, 8 years old, realizing that there was something different. And you've spoken about this culture where if you are gay, then the Torah says that it's X, Y, and Z, and then there's this fear of living in regret, like you said. So going all the way back to that kid, 5 years old, 8 years old, Shua, if you had a chance, with all the knowledge, all the wisdom that you've gained throughout your life, and all the knowledge you'll gain in the future, I'm sure, what would you say to him if you had a chance?
Never give up. Keep pushing forward. You'll meet amazing people along the road. People who will you'll meet many people along the road. Some will try to bring you down. Some people will make you think that they'll be there for you no matter what, and then they won't. But then there will be people who will stand by you no matter what. And those people will fill your heart with love every day that you wake up and every night that you go to sleep. And those people, you may not think that they are in your life already, but they are.
Beautifully said. Thank you again, Shua, for spending this time with us.
Oh, it was such an honor.
Yeah. Do you have any final?
Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, we live in a very challenging time at the moment, and any positivity that's put out like this is so valuable and so important, and it goes a long way, because I saw that video that on YouTube that was created 9 years ago, and I still watch it. I watched it recently. So it's out there. The support is out there. The love is out there. The programs are out there. The community is so much bigger than how it was when I came out, and I only came out 5.5 years ago. So seek us, look for us. We're there. We love you, and you're not alone, and it gets better.
Here's to sharing our story in this moment and many more moments in the future. Thank you, Shua.
My pleasure.